Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Bastard Review. This week I'm looking at ECW's November to Remember 96. This event took place on November 16th, 1996, in the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We start off the night with Taz cutting an in-ring promo, kind of revealing the barely legal pay-per-view, but especially calling out Sabu and telling Paul Heyman that he's going to kick Sabu's ass at the pay-per-view. It's a nice little promo. Taz has never been a very good talker, but he does okay here. Nothing to complain about. The first match of the night is David Jericho, a.k.a. David Cash, a.k.a. Kid Cash, taking on Stevie Richards. Stevie comes out with Hollywood Nova and the Blue Meanie, and I believe this is the first appearance of the BWO. Prior to the match, they cut a promo introducing who they are. And I have to say, this segment, this parody rivals the DX parody of the Nation of Domination. I mean, it's hilarious. It's comedy gold. The match is alright. Kid Cash makes a couple mistakes. But it's a good way to open up the show. Not a bad match. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. The next match is Axel Rotten taking on Hack Myers, and I guess their tag team from 6 months ago is no longer together. This was a below average match. It didn't last very long. It was a brawl, which you expect from these two guys. I didn't expect any fancy moves or anything. I was hoping it would go a little longer and be a little more memorable. Like I said, it only lasted like 4 or 5 minutes, if that. Just really below average. I expect better from these two guys. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10. The next match is Devon Dudley taking on Bubba Ray Dudley. This match was alright. It was kind of uneventful. The biggest thing that happened is Bubba Ray throws Devon up into the air and then turns around and brings him down into like a diamond cutter. That was pretty impressive. The thing that makes me rate this so highly, though, is what comes after the match. Joel Gertner comes down before they can announce Bubba Ray the winner and announces Devon as the winner. And then things spiral out of control as Spike Dudley, Devon's partner Axel Rotten, and Big Dick Dudley all make an appearance. And that was entertaining. So, average, meh match with a really great ending. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. After that, you have Rob Van Dam and Sabu taking on the Eliminators, and this was a number 1 contendership to face the Gangstas for the World Tag Team titles later that night. This was an incredible match. Seriously, it's something you have to see. At one point, Sabu does a springboard plancha onto the Eliminators, and it looks like he hits his jaw on the metal guardrail. It looked like it hurt, and I imagine it did. This was just a really amazing match. It's something, I really recommend watching it, and the ending just makes it all that much better. Definitely worth checking out. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. The next match is Mikey Whipwreck taking on Chris Candido. This is another great match. I almost wish it were for a title. I think that would have made it a little more special, but I believe this is Chris Candido's first return match to ECW. So it kind of makes sense that it's not for a title, but it's still a good match, and it definitely stands up. Two great wrestlers. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. After that, the ECW World Tag Team titles are put on the line when the Gangstas go up against not only the Eliminators, but Rob Van Dam and Sabu as well in a 3-way dance. I have to admit, I'm kind of surprised that they put this on so soon. I don't know if this was actually the main event and they just switched stuff around on the video. I would have saved this until the very end and made this the main event, because it would have given time for the two teams that faced each other already to rest up and get ready for the next match. It was an okay match. It was nothing more than a brawl pretty much between 6 men. Within the first 5 minutes, half of the teams are already busted open, so I'm not really a fan of these hardcore matches. They don't really do anything for me. I think the number one contender match was a lot more interesting than this one. But still, it wasn't too bad. It could have been a lot worse. And there were some neat things that happened during the match. But honestly, it could have been a lot better. I'm giving this a 6 out of 10. The next segment is kind of complicated. This was Two Cold Scorpios last night. And instead of going out with a bang and the cheering crowd, he decides to go out as a heel. He challenges anyone in the back to a match. Devon Storm comes out and loses. JT Smith comes out with Little Guido and loses. Hack Myers comes out and loses. And finally, Louis Spicolli comes out and manages to pin Two Cold Scorpio. But Scorpio refuses to leave and says that he wants someone to throw him out of the ring. And then Taz comes down and starts threatening him, and I guess Scorpio just backs off and leaves. But then Taz refuses to leave the ring and demands that Sabu come down and face him. Todd Gordon comes down and gets choked out by Taz, and then Paul Heyman comes down and also gets choked out by Taz. And finally, the lights go out, the lights come back up, and Sabu's standing in the ring. Taz and Sabu walk around each other, and just as they're running towards each other, the lights go out again. And when they come back up, no one's in the ring. It's just a really great way to set up the Barely Legal match. I'm just kind of disappointed that it had to come at the expense of Two Cold Scorpios' exit of ECW. Still, it's a great segment. I'm not going to judge the matches because they're hardly matches at all. I'm just going to say I like it. Up next, Sandman defends his ECW World Heavyweight title against Raven. This was kind of a meh match for me. It was okay. It wasn't, bad. It didn't really do anything for me. I think the only thing it had going for it was the storyline where Sandman's ex-wife sided with Raven and they brought his son Tyler into the storyline as well. So it had that going for it, but the match itself wasn't anything special. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. The last match and your main event is Shane Douglas and Brian Lee taking on Tommy Dreamer and Terry Funk. Now, Terry is replacing Pitbull number 2 because he was injured by Brian Lee, I guess a week earlier or whatever. This was a pretty good match. I pretty much expected a brawl, and that's what I got. 4 men brawling. It's, nothing special. There are a few good run-ins from some various people who I won't mention in case you want to watch it yourself. I think this would have been a lot better if it was for something. I realize that Terry Funk's probably only there for one night only, but that itself made it special, so I can't fault them. I still think that the tag team title match should have been in this spot instead of this. But it was a good match. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. Overall, ECW's November to Remember 96 is a just barely above average pay-per-view. You've got one really great match on here that I really recommend you watch, and the rest of it is just above average, and one match that is just below average. I'm giving this show a 6 out of 10. Hardcore ECW fans will want to watch it, but if you're just a general wrestling fan, I recommend just going out and finding the RVD Sabu Eliminators match by itself. Thank you for listening, and please tune in again to another Bastard Review when I review another wrestling DVD in my collection or anything else that crosses my path.